What we've been doing is developed an app or a platform where we have Angel making a call and following up with all of these patients. And so how we've done this, and the reason we've used this just in terms of a phone call, is because we also know, especially those in their 70s and 80s, they're not going to be as adept at using a smartphone. I mean, more and more people, and especially baby boomers, are using smartphones, but a lot of them you'll see on TV, jitterbug, and really keeping it a pretty simple kind of phone. So we thought, well, maybe the best thing to do is, rather than add different devices, and I've seen plenty in the aging field where they'll have devices now, they're different sensors, and so there'll be a pad like on the floor, so when my dad, like he's 97, lives alone, we sure like to know how he's doing each day. But, so if he would get up in the morning and he steps on that pad, then I could get a text and I'd know, oh, good, my dad got up. Or if he stayed in the bathroom too long, then, heads up, that might be a particular problem. But many people don't like that. They don't want all of these sensors in their home. It feels a little bit like Big Brother. It's kind of creepy for some people. They just don't want that. And so we thought what we'll do is it's just any kind of phone they're using, and for many of them it's landlines. And so all we want them to do is just pick up the phone. And then Angel, think of like Alexis or Siri, places a call, and what we're able to do is work with the doctor's offices. So say, for instance, I've had my knee surgery from Dr. Schnur here, and so he could do a recording, and so now I'm home from the hospital, and on that recording, he's saying, look, Linda, I'm glad you got through the surgery and everything, and we're going to have Angel ask you a few questions, and she's going to ask those questions to you now, and she's going to do that, 3 days from now. We really want your participation. So then Angel gets on the line, and then she'll ask me, hey, Linda, how are you feeling?
This Angel is not a person.
She's not a person, right. Yeah, she's Siri or Alexis. And so she'll ask how I'm doing, and she's able to pick up, no matter what I'm saying, if I feel great or if I feel terrible. And then she'll know to drill on certain questions or ask different, kind of biometrics that we'd be interested in knowing. So one of the things she might also do, depending upon how I respond in terms of how I feel, is that some of the symptoms that are, definitely red flags that I might be experiencing some trouble, she'll be asking. And so it would be, would you take a look at your wound today, and is it more red than it was yesterday? Is it swollen? She might ask, depending upon some of the answers, is there a discharge? Are you feeling warm? And so based on all those answers, all of that voice now is being translated to text. It's going to a dashboard so that at the other end, at the doctor's office or whoever's reading this, is going to see alerts that, if I say that I am warm, one of the questions also they'd be asking, did you get that antibiotic filled? And if they said no, then we want to know why not. Do you need transportation? Could we call the pharmacy for you? So those are the kinds of questions that she'll be asking, and that way they'll end up knowing at the doctor's office, should they really be making a call, intervening, because we know what those symptoms would be and the different behaviors that would indicate that this person's pretty likely to be readmitted. We also do it in terms of well-being measures. We've given this away. It's considered a freemium, and they feel that at some point someone might want Care Angel Plus, but we also give this out to family members who want to make sure that there are older loved ones who are living alone. About 1/3 of the elderly in their 80s are living alone, and to make sure that they're okay. It's a kind of old school telephone reassurance call, where you can call, you'll ask them different well-being measures and how they are, and if they want to be connected to anyone in their care circle. Did they take their medications? And if not, again, kind of drilling down. She'll know to drill down whether or not it was a refill. Is it because, is it a new medication and it's made you feel rather ill? And we're gathering that data. And then I have an app on my phone, and so I'll know how my dad responded to any of those questions, and if he needs anything, I'll be able to get that. And so that's something that we have found for a lot of family members gives them, a real sense of peace of mind.
My name is Frederick Hudson. I'm the CEO and founder of Pigeonly. And Pigeonly creates a platform that allows people to easily search, find, and communicate with their loved ones in prison. This is a problem that was very close to me because I personally experienced it. I served close to 5 years in federal prison for distribution of marijuana. Don't feel bad for me. It was lots and lots and lots and lots of marijuana. So, you know, but it was during that time that I saw that there was this huge population of people that no one's paying attention to, and we all had the same problem. It was very expensive and difficult and inconvenient to stay in touch with your loved ones and family members. So once I was released, I got with my co-founder and I said, let's build a platform to solve this. Technology was way, far enough at this point to deal with it, but just no one had focused on this demographic. So essentially, fast forward to today, we're a team of 20 people. We're based in Las Vegas, and the core of our platform is basically a voice over IP application that generates a telephone number for a loved one to be able to receive low-cost prison phone calls on. So this cuts the call from, for example, for 300 minutes in federal prison, it costs about $70. On our platform, it's the cheapest that it can be, which is $18. So it's a significant price difference between the cost of using our service and the cost of not using our service. We also built in a few other communication products to go along with it, so people can send greeting cards, postcards, letters, even articles that they see online from any cell phone, tablet, computer. So our overall mission and goal was really just to bridge the gap between all of us who live in this digital world and this population of 2.3 million people that's connected to 20 million people that all live in an analog world. So that's essentially what we've built. I think one of our core technology components is we've built the only nationwide database that knows where every single inmate is in the country. This is something that the inefficiencies of government, people didn't realize was a problem, and no one really solved it because they didn't really have a way to monetize or a way to make sense of solving this issue. For example, California records don't talk to Florida, Florida doesn't talk to Texas, Texas doesn't talk to Michigan, and so on and so forth. So in our system, what a lot of families were having the problem with is that they didn't know where their loved one was located. So on our system, you can just put in John Smith. Our system will search and find out where John Smith is across 17,000 facilities that's here in the US. And they'll be able to easily add him to his contact list and then be able to stay in touch with John. If you do not have access to funding, if you walk into a VC's room and you say, I'm a social entrepreneur, they're gonna kind of push you to the side and say, you're really not building anything that could be big or anything that can be really disruptive. So you're almost going through that, and then he said he's in San Francisco and something like that. So I understand the feedback that he's getting, which is making him shy away from it. We're past that at this point, but I think access to capital is a very important thing for entrepreneurs that are building something that does have a social impact or a double bottom line. It's really, really important that there's a lot of funding sources, but not as easy to find as, for example, just general angel investors, general venture capitalists, and so on and so forth. And they're little small pockets. So I think having more access and making those funding sources more easy to find for social entrepreneurship would make people embrace the term and embrace the mission and let that be more the forefront, for lack of being judged and kind of put to the side that you're not really going to be build something that's investable in a lot of ways. Because people hear social entrepreneurship, they automatically think nonprofit, this is not going to be something investable, and they kind of just move on. So for us, it was really just understanding our market and really taking a business approach from very early on, just because I had built the first version of this company while I was still living in a halfway house. So we had to have a very clear business model of who our customer was. We had to really understand how much money would this make, what was the market size, what was the opportunity. We really had to have a really good understanding of our metric and of our numbers and be able to articulate that to the investment community to be able to get the support that we needed. So that's how we was able to get the support. And then over on, now our investors span from traditional just technology VC investors to social impact investors on the East Coast and on the West Coast. Some of the names that most people are familiar with is Mitch Kapor with the Kapor Foundation. We have JS Capital, Jonathan Soros' son. He does a lot of social impacting investing, Social Entrepreneur Fund with Liz and Rashid. So we have a pretty good mix of both non and impact investors. and as far as the marketing and to get to our demographic, most of the people, this is still a very taboo thing to talk about. So in this room, there's probably somebody in here who has a loved one in prison, but there's no way for me to know who that person is. So we have an online and online and offline strategy of marketing. Our offline strategy is very traditional. We use the database that we have of knowing where every inmate is to send direct mail directly to them, introducing them to our products and services, and said, hey, if you like the easier way to receive photos and correspondence, have your family check this out. If you're tired of paying these expensive prices for your telephone calls, have your family check this out. And we send them direct mail. So when we first started the company, I didn't know what was good or what was bad for direct mail. And we had a 25% response rate, and I wasn't really impressed. I was like, it's not a really big deal. I later learned that that's phenomenal for direct mail, right? So, but because we had, for lack of a better term, we had a very captive market, and we were solving a problem that they understood, right? So it was one of those things where it just worked very well for us. And now as we've grown, we started focusing a little bit more on online strategies. The traditional Google AdWords and social media advertising, things like that, and just SEO, and just making sure that when people are searching for a solution, that we're one of the first things that pop up. I think it's really important, especially for people that look like me, to see other examples of us doing things in other lanes and other industries that you don't necessarily exposed to. So no one in my family has ever did anything in technology. No one in my family has ever done nothing really in entrepreneurship. So it wasn't something I was exposed to. However, I understood all the principles because I knew business from my last profession, right? So I got it, but it was just really just applying it to the right industry. And something that's not against the law anymore was kind of weird now, but that's a different topic, different panel. But to your first question, I think it's important to really drive the focus away from necessarily understanding what you're building directly on the industry, or if it's technology or not technology, and really explain that it's just really, if you understand the concepts and the core concepts of business, that you can do something successful and you can build something successful that you want to build, and don't be intimidated by necessarily what is this. I don't really know nothing technology. I don't really understand it, but I can build a business because I do understand the core concepts of business. Oh, because we're relatively new, we have about 2 years of data. So a lot of the folks that have started on the platform, they haven't been released yet, so we don't know. However, there has been other studies that's done. One was done by Prison Legal News that showed that recidivism cuts at least half with people who stay in touch. Because we do track when people come in the system, we track when they're released, we'll be able to see over the next few years what percentage of people that use our products, based on the people who don't use our products, what is the rate that they return and don't return.
We're certainly not in as rosy a mood as we were about the public sector perhaps a year ago. I don't know that those days are ever coming back, but the interesting question for me that all of this raises, as I suggested in what I was saying after lunch, is I wouldn't quite say who needs the public sector, and I know that Johnny would argue with me about, we certainly do need the public sector, and obviously we do, but so much of what we came to expect in the 20th century the government was going to do for us, we're finding hacks around that, obviously, and there are social ventures, or ventures, whatever you want to call them, some of them not so social, that are figuring out for other reasons ways to do things that we counted on the government to do. We don't count on the government to do. We wonder where the solution's coming from. Here's where the solutions are coming from. Put together everything we've heard this afternoon, and it's a very, very different world. And to go to, I keep coming back and harping on my conversations with Carl last night, but I think the point here is we're looking at a really, really, really different world a generation from now than the one that we've known until now. Is that scary? Sure, it may be, but I don't think it necessarily means that it's a worse world. In a lot of ways, there's huge potential for it to be a much better world.